So for anyone watching this recording, I just started recording the class. What we've done so far in class is we've pinned and sewn the inseam on the two pant legs. So the tips that I gave were when you sew the inseam, whenever you're sewing with stretch, you start a 1/4 inch down, but don't backstitch up to the top. Just leave it and finish stitching all the way down and just stitch off the fabric at the bottom and then go back and finish that piece at the top. If you backstitch on a knit, it'll bunch up. And try on your leg after you stitch one leg, a 1/2 inch seam allowance, try it on, see how it fits. And if it's too big, you can take it in. And then on the other side, you can make that adjustment so that it fits better. We also talked about needles. I don't recommend that you have to use a special needle. You just can use your medium-sized needle that you use with woven fabrics. And I recommend using a stretch stitch from your manual, the one that's suggested on your manual, and then you can check after you sew the stretch stitch. You should pull the fabric, and the fabric should give with those threads should move with the fabric. That's how you know it's a stretch stitch. You can adjust this if it's a zigzag stretch. You can adjust the width to make it narrower so it's not as big. So it's more like a straight stitch. And a stretch stitch is very slow. It takes longer because the needle's working harder and doing extra stitches to create that stretch effect with the thread. So you have to, and the knit fabric's a little slippery, so you gotta be careful that you can keep the edges together. All right, Carol said she's probably gonna watch the video, so I wanted to make sure that I had everything in there for her. So I think that's it. That's where we are. Everyone's finishing their inseams and trying their pants on to make sure they've got the width, the fit they want. And then we're going to sew the crotch. So there's like 3 more steps: the crotch, 3 steps, the crotch, the waist, and then the hem. The hem is really simple. You guys, you have options. You could leave it raw. If you cut it really clean, like on mine, I'll put it on the table. It's not that clean. You can see there's a little nub here that I didn't do straight. So if you want to leave it raw, you need to fix those. You need to have a really clean edge. So you have to be a good cutter. I could go back and just snip that off to make it smooth. If you're not comfortable with that, you could pink the edge, this raw edge, and then fold it up. And that's what I'm going to teach today, is pinking the raw edge and folding it up a 1/2 inch and then sewing it down. You could use a serger. I used a serger on this pair, and I finished the edge with the serger, and then I could just leave it like that, or you could turn it up and fold it and stitch it too. So you have and have it finished like this. So that would be similar to the pair that I bought at the store, or it's a folded with a stitch. It has a serger stitch on the raw edge, and then it's folded. So those are the options that I recommend for your pants to finish the hem. And then the waistband, we're just doing a simple elastic waistband with your 1 inch white elastic. So it ends up looking like this. Label. And yeah, and so that's it. The crotch, the waistband, and the hem. That's what we have left. So the hem is really simple, and the waistband is the same technique that we used in the pajama pants. So similar techniques we use over and over again and to make things easier. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the next step. We have a little over an hour. To finish. So I think we'll be good. To do the crotch, you just lay out one leg inside out, and then you take the other leg and turn it right side out. We've done this before. We did it with the pajama shorts, pajama pants. And so then I take my my right side out leg, that's right side out, see it's nice and clean. I put it in my arm like this, and then I stick it inside the other leg. So I have the seam. What I'm paying attention to is my seam. Here's my seam, where my finger is, and here's the seam on my other leg. So I'm matching those two seams up, sticking my hand in the leg like this. I want those two seams to match. So when I come up to the top, I pull this up. These are my two crotch seams that I'm holding right here. One here and one here. I want them to match up together. So I open it up, I open the seam up. With my fingers, I open the seam allowance up. I know like this dark colors like that. And then I turn it over to the right side. And then I take the other seam allowance and open it up. Just like this. And I turn it to the right side, and I take those two right sides and I push them together. I squish them together, and I match the seam line, right? We always match the seam lines. And I match the edge of the fabric, and I put a pin there. So you're matching that crotch seam. That would be right. It would literally be that seam that's right at your crotch there. We're matching that up and pinning it. And then, so I have that pinned like this. That's a good picture there. And here's the other side. And then the next thing I do once that's pinned is then I start working my way up this crotch here. So I'm working towards the back on mine, and I'm matching up the edges of the fabric. So see, you have these two legs here, and I know they're the back because they have the two slashes in them that we did, the notches. And I'm just using my fingers. I'm working from the crotch, working up the back, and I'm matching together the edge of the fabric. And I'm pinning. And it's going to make this like horseshoe shape, a U shape. And that's the shape that we're going to sew, this horseshoe shape. The notches should be fairly close to each other. If everything on your pattern was correct, they should be matching up. And then I go up to the top. So I put in a couple pins down here. I like to go up to the top now where the waist is and match those two corners. Match those two corners. And then I work my way back down to the other pins. I like doing crotch seams. It's satisfying for some reason. I like matching up this U shape. Weird. Me. And then after I finish this side, I pinned this side. Now I'm going to do the front. So then I turn the pants around and I find these two edges. Make sure they're, you know, right sides together. All the rules apply. So it looks like this. So I have my right sides together. And now I'm on the front, and I know because I only have one notch. And I'm going to match the two notches and pin that. And then I'm going to go up to the top, to the waist, and pin those two corners so that they're matching. Everything has to match, right? And now I'm just pinning the rest of the front seam together. So because this is like a horseshoe shape, it's a U shape. It's a little different to sew. You have to kind of be careful, a little trickier on your sewing machine. You always want to sew the inside of a curve. So this is my curve, my U shape. Right here, you can see the pins. And I have this shape right here. So when I sew, I'm gonna take it like this. I'm gonna put this end here, right here in the sewing machine and start sewing here and all the way in around. I don't wanna sew this way. I don't wanna take, so I'm gonna use this side. I don't wanna take this side and turn it over and sew the outside. You always wanna be on the inside of the U, not the outside. This is the outside out here. You want to be on the inside. Your presser foot is on the inside, not the outside. Does that make sense?
So would the rest of your fabric fall on the left side of the presser
Yes.
foot?
Yes. Yeah. So your presser foot is right here at the top, and I just take my pant legs and push them off to the left. So I'm right here sewing like this. My presser foot's here, and I go, and my pant legs are over here off to the left, hanging off. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go over to my sewing machine. Do you guys want me to move the camera right up on the machine so you can see how I'm doing it? Or are you fine with the long shot?
I think I'm okay. Either way, whatever's easiest.
Remind me to plug my computer back in because I have to unplug my computer. I'll move it closer, but don't let me forget or I'll lose you guys. My battery has no life. So I will move it closer so you guys can get a better look at what I do.
Sorry, Amy, I just finished pinking. So I turn one leg right side out. I slide it into the other leg that is outside out. And then I pin. I match up the seams and then I pin.
Yes.
Does it matter which way I pin first? Like which, the front or the back?
No, it doesn't. Just I like to work on the inside of the U shape because that's the way I'm sewing.
Okay.
But you could pin up the back or up the front. That doesn't matter.
And then the notches are supposed to match up, right?
Yeah, they should match up. So I have my needle in the fabric and the rest of my seam is following like in a U shape and it's coming up and around. And at the end of my seam, I'm holding in this hand and it's off to the left, laying here off to the left. You can see it on the machine. See? And I'm sewing the inside. So this is what I mean by my presser foot is on the inside, sewing inside like this, as opposed to sewing on the outside. The outside would be over here. And that's how you sew sleeves too, like any circle. You want to try to keep that seam allowance pushed open. Sometimes when you're sewing, it'll start to, it'll get pushed to the other side. I'm going to try my best to keep it open. So now I'm just going to go back to the where I started and finish that piece that didn't get sewn. And I did back stitch. So that's the inseam. I was able to keep both the seam allowances open. Because it reduces bulk. You don't, the more that things pile up, then you have bulk, and that's not good for clothes. So it looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna pink it the same way I pinked my inseam, same way. And at that point, after pinking or before pinking, you could try them on again and see how they're looking. It's always good to keep trying on whatever you're making. It never hurts. You can make tweaks and adjustments. I'm not going to try these on. I'm just going to pink them, and then I'll show you the next step. So pinking, you just have to kind of get it laid out the way you were sewing so that it's flat on the table. So now I have it laid out nice and flat. You can see my little J shape there. And so it'll be nice and easy to pink it. Really hard to pink that where the seams match there, but I got through it. It's a good day to be sewing because it's so freaking hot out there. No one wants to be outside right now.
I know.
It's funny though, I was thinking like, oh, we're making like really warm leggings on a really hot day.
I know it kind of sucks when you're like, I only want to make stuff that I really would want to wear right now. But hey, you'll have them ready for the fall.
Yeah, we're gonna plan ahead.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking I want to make shorts, like long
Yeah.
shorts
Yeah.
with these legging with the, with sort of like the same fit in a stretchy material,
Yeah. Like bike shorts.
like bike shorts.
You could totally do that. You have your pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that I want to make this like another pair, but like the capris like you guys are doing.
I just tried mine on and it fits so nicely.
Oh, cool. Yay. See, that's the important thing. You know, that's the whole point of this class, was that you guys could create
Yeah.
a pair that fit you. You could even add pockets, like my leggings that I copied that I bought at the store. It's hard to see, but they have like back pockets on the butt, back here, right on the butt. So you could, they're just patch pockets. You could cut the same fabric in that shape, whatever shape you want, and just sew them onto the back. You want a little
I
pocket.
was wondering about that because I just bought one with side pockets and it's kind of nice for the phone to be on the
Yeah,
side.
side pockets are a little trickier.
Get harder. Uh-huh. Like they're still patchy, but they're just on the side.
They're what?
They're still like a patch, like it sticks on the outside. It's not
Oh, they
like
are?
yeah,
Oh, okay, then you could just copy that.
right. And then just
Yeah.
on the side. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe I will.
Your original pattern that you're using, they have pockets on the side that are just
No, it's I bought another pair
another pair.
at
Copy
Costco
that.
and they had side pockets and it just kind of like it's on the outside. It doesn't hide, you know?
Uh-huh.
It's just on the outside pocket.
So when it's on the outside like that, like this one I showed you, it's called a patch pocket.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
So how do I do that? How do you do that? I mean, you cut a pattern and you cut the pocket and then
yeah, you could trace. So I know it's hard to see because it's all one color, but there is a
oh right, I see it. Okay.
so you could lay your paper on top of your pocket. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
little harder because yours are on the side.
Yeah,
So you'll have to manipulate the pant and get it
right.
the pocket flat,
Okay.
and then lay the paper on it and you could use chalk, like sewing chalk we use, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of fun. So you take a little piece of the pattern paper that that we gave you, and
Yeah,
you just lay it on top of the pocket, and if it's
right.
staying flat on the table, laying flat on the table, you can just go like this.
Oh, okay. And it takes the
Find
shape.
a better color. You can go like this and it'll rub off the shape.
Okay.
So get a bigger. I love doing this. You should probably pin the paper down so it doesn't move.
Okay.
But you can get the shape of the pocket.
Yeah.
So I have a rough shape of the pocket. It's hard for you guys to see, but I can see there's a line here and a line here and a line here, and then there's that little V shape down here, but that's a rub off.
Yeah.
Just get those lines traced off. And then you just cut out the fabric, use this as a pattern, and
Mhm.
I would finish this top edge first. That's
Okay.
the open edge. You could pink that raw edge, turn it over, and then sew it down, just like we're gonna do with the hem.
Oh.
A folded, just like this they've done, they folded it, so it's finished. And then after you do that, then you can attach it to the pant, just like, didn't you guys do pockets on your tote bags? Yeah, so the same way Lindsay, so then you can fold over the raw edge before you sew it on, fold it over, pin it, and then just place it where you want it and sew it on with the sewing machine.
Okay.
It'll be a little trickier because yours is on the side, manipulating it a little bit, but I think you can do it.
Okay.
If you don't want to do the rub off, you could just measure the pocket If it's pretty standard shape, like a square or a rectangle, its measurements might be easier, but if it's kind of a random shape, that rub off treatment is useful. So my pants are done, basically, except for the hem and the waistband. So we'll do the waistband now. I made mine with a high waist this time. This is crazy. You have a real high waist. So the first thing I'm going to do, the next step is our waistband. Are you guys ready for that? Do you want me to wait a few minutes? Yay or nay?
I missed it and I'm really behind, so don't worry about me.
Okay, Maria, I'm sorry, you were showing me something? Or
No,
are
no,
you
I
ready to
wasn't.
go?
But I can, yeah, I can go if everyone,
Okay.
I mean, I'm cool. I can wait.
Okay, I'm gonna, so the, oh. So Maria, now we're gonna pink that edge of the waist. Before we fold over the waist and get it ready for the elastic, you gotta pink the edge.
Okay.
You could leave it raw. I've seen there's a lot of knits that leave raw. Like I was just looking at these, the pocket on these pants and the edges. There's a raw edge right here and it's not that bad, but I always like to finish them unless it's a design reason. So we'll pink it. We're just gonna take just the smallest amount off the top. Just a little teeny bit, like as little as I can, not much. And you could have actually done this before you sewed the inseam at the very beginning, and then you wouldn't have to do this circle. A tip for the next time you do this, it's easier to pink it when it's on a flat, obviously. Okay, so I finished pinking the edge of my waistband, and now we're gonna fold it over 1.5 inches. So our waistband elastic is 1 inch. So we're gonna fold it 1.5 inches to give us that extra room in there for it to move. Yeah, So use your measuring tape. And you want that fold and then pin it. You want that to be 1.5 inches all the way around. So I'm gonna put my little label in the back. So I have to figure out which is front and back. I can tell because these pants definitely have the butt sagging a little in the back. I can see the difference. If you still have your notches on your pants, you can figure it out with the notches. I think we put them on our waistband. My notches disappeared. But I can tell by the shape of the crotch. And now I'm just gonna pin all the way around, pinning it down 1.5 inches, fold. I'm gonna eyeball it. I'm gonna eyeball it and just measure it every once in a while to make sure I'm not going off track. Make sure to leave that opening because we're gonna take the elastic and pull it through with a safety pin. So right now I'm folding over the front seam and I want to make sure that that seam allowance matches my seam allowance when I fold it. I didn't mention that when I was doing the back. So I'm going to mention that now. Check.
Hey, Amy, I noticed with the shorts that we made the other month,
Yes.
sometimes the elastic kind of rolls, like after I wash it. Is that
Oh.
just because why is that? And is there a way to fix that?
Maybe that the fold over, what we're doing right now, is too big, is too much, and it's letting the elastic move. So
just make kind of like a smaller tunnel.
yes, so maybe you want to only make it 1.25 inches. So fold over. Mine hasn't been that bad. I mean, it does it a little bit sometimes, but not that bad. Maybe the fold over this opening, the casing, make it smaller.
Okay.
It helps if you pinked a straight line. I didn't in a lot of places, so it's kind of hard to measure. Okay, so I just went ahead and pinned the whole thing, but I have to leave an opening. So it was just easier to pin the whole thing first, and then I'm going to decide. I usually put my opening in the back, but I don't put it on the center back because it's hard to maneuver through that seam there. I usually do it somewhere off to the side in the back. So I'm going to do it right here. It's a couple inches away. And I mark it with a vertical pin so I know that that's where I should stop sewing. And my opening is about 3 inches wide, 3.5. I kind of like to leave a big opening so it's easier. for me to get in and out. I have quite a lot of pins too, because this fabric's kind of slippery and might move around, so I'm using a ton of pins. And it's a curve, so, and it's a knit, so a lot of pins are only going to help me. And then I'm kind of pulling to make sure that everything is flat and pinned correctly. I don't have any big gaps. So there, I pinned it all the way around. I have my opening right here. And put my label right there. So now you go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew it down. So again, this is a circle, so I'm going to always sew on the inside of the circle. This is the inside. The outside is over here, would be the right side. This is the inside. That's how I'm referring to it. So I'm going to put my needle in here and sew the inside of the circle all the way around.
And are you still using the stretch stitch?
Yes, yes. But make sure you leave your opening to put the elastic through. And then the trickiest part after we're done sewing this is just getting the right elastic. That's something that always stresses me out, is measuring the elastic and getting it the way I want it to fit on my waist, because every elastic has a different stretch factor. I don't know what they call it. There's a name for it, stretch quotient or something. But when you buy elastic, you know, they all vary. Some have more stretch, right? Same with fabric, knit fabrics. So if you have a pattern for a particular fabric that you made something in, and then you buy another fabric and use the same fabric pattern, if that fabric has less stretch or more stretch, it might fit differently on you. FYI. Same with elastic, like this elastic is stretchier than this elastic. So it's just something that you kind of have to needle through. So that's why I always, some videos when they have sewing teachers teach waistband elastic, they say, oh, measure your waist, take that number and subtract an inch or subtract 2 inches. That doesn't really work for me. I prefer to just measure, camera taller. And I've shown you guys this before, but I prefer to just measure my waist with my elastic, and wherever I want my pants to fall. So if I wanted to fall here at this part of my waist or up here, that's where I would measure. So if I want it up here, if I want it here, if I want it here, so I can get the most accurate fit. And so if I want it here, then I pull it, and I pull it tight. And you want to pull it a little tight, and then you feel it here and just kind of feel like, oh, is that too tight or too loose? Oh, that's a little too tight. So then I let it out. Or, oh, that's too loose. So then I pull it in. But I've learned over the times that I've done this that it's better to err on the side of a little tighter with the elastic. Make sure it's a little tight. It's fairly tight. And then I just sort of mark it with a pen or something right here. And then that's how I know the length that I want. This is my length. And then I add an inch for seam allowance. So I add an inch for seam allowance. So that's how I do that. But anyway, I'm going to go finish this now. Sewing this, and we'll talk elastic after we sew this. Oh, and you guys, actually, I'm going to go run to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom, and then I'll be right back. Hello, I'm back. I'm gonna go ahead and sew now. Are you guys all good? Any questions? Okay. Oh, and I'm sewing putting my needle in just like about a little less than a quarter of an inch from that edge, pink edge. Just like that. I'm not back stitching. And I'm just putting my needle in like a little less than a quarter inch from that pink edge. Because I want to leave room for my elastic to go through. nice. So I finished sewing my waistband. And now I can put my elastic through. There's another way you could do this too. You don't, you could, instead of pinking, you could take the edge. Show you. Take the raw edge and just fold it a 1/4 inch. Like that. Um, Light. So it would be folded and finished like that, and then stitch on top of the fold. That would look nicer. Oh, there we go. Then I think this treatment. I don't like the way this looks that much. On the sample that I made, I actually serged the edge, so it looked really good. But it's okay. That's another way though that you could do it. It's a little more work because you're having to fold it and you have to iron it and pin it. This is faster. So I don't think this pink edge is going to be itchy on your skin. I think it'll be okay. So yeah, so done with that. If you make another pair and you want to finish the edge folding it once, you can do it that way. Now it's time to measure our waist and figure out our elastic, like the way I showed you guys earlier. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that right now, off camera, because I need to pull my pants down, get an accurate measurement. So I'm pretty low tech about this. I'm just using my finger. You could mark it with chalk. And then I'm gonna eyeball my inch that I'm adding for seam allowance. So I'm just gonna cut it like that. Have a little extra you could save for something else. So now I'm gonna take my safety pin. And put it through one end of the elastic. How are you guys doing?
I'm with you with the elastic.
You're with me? Okay, good. I know some of you are working at different paces. That's okay. So now I will find my opening and take my safety pin and start working the elastic through. This can get a little frustrating because sometimes the elastic might twist and turn. You got to try to keep it straight. The fabric that I used for my sample was fairly stable and slick. This fabric that I'm using is a very soft, more of a jersey knit, so it's a little bit harder to work with. So I'm gonna have to take my time. I made a dog bed cover for my dog's dog bed. And it, it was so much work. I made a special pattern for it, and it had like 3 pattern pieces, and it's a lot of fabric. I made it out of a sheet, but I put elastic around the edge, kind of like a mattress cover, so that it would stay on. So I've been doing this a lot lately. It turned out pretty good. Oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you guys, pin this other end of elastic, pin it to the fabric so you don't lose it. I just remembered in time. I was almost going to lose mine. And I've done that before, and then you have to pull it out and start over. So you don't want to lose this elastic end. So you can use a pin or another safety pin just to pin it so it doesn't get lost while you're pulling through. Hopefully that didn't happen to anyone. So I'm done. I got it through. I just want to make sure that it's not twisting at all. I've done that a few times where I've sewn it up and it's twisting. That sucks. So it has twisted, it looks like. No, it hasn't. Good. So when I get the ends through, I take them and safety pin them. I just have my own little weird way of doing this. I put them together like this and safety pin them. And then I check. That way I know they're not going to get lost. And then I double check to make sure that it's not twisted, and I can spread out the gathers like I'm doing right now. Mine look kind of like pajama pants or something, knit pajama pants, which is fine. I love pajama pants. Knit pajama pants are awesome. Okay, so mine's good. It's not twisting. I distributed gathers. So now I'm ready to sew up the elastic. I'm just double checking again to make sure nothing's twisting. So I can just sew right here a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to use a pin. You could change your stitch. You don't have to use a stretch stitch for this. I'm just going to leave it on a stretch stitch just first. I don't think it's not going to make a difference. Make a difference. And now I'm going to stitch right here, a stitch line. And then what I do is, because I don't want this poking me, is I open it up after I stitch my stitch line. I open this up, and then I stitch over it back and forth, or I go up and down, whatever is easiest. The sewing machine that I used to have, I could actually make it like do a zigzag in one stitch, but this machine doesn't do that. So I'll probably do like up and down on this side and then up and down on this side, so that these seam allowances are laying flat. That's really important, so they're not poking you. So that's what I'm going to do now. And then after that, then we close up the hole. Okay, so I'll do the elastic first, and I'll show you the hole closing. Normally, I'm not using, actually, I lied to you guys, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna use that stretch stitch. I just did right now, and I forgot you can't back stitch with it. I mean, maybe I could, but I'm just gonna switch it back to my straight stitch. And I'm gonna sew with the straight stitch. When I do elastic, I like to back stitch a lot. You don't want your elastic to, it's gonna be highly functional, and obviously you don't want it to pop open. So I just switched over to my regular straight stitch so that I can back stitch several times. And make sure my elastic is secure. Now I'm gonna open up the seam allowance and do, I gotta pull it out a bit so I can get at it and do my stitches on top. I just ran out of bobbin thread, so I'm just gonna fix it. So So I finished the elastic, so it looks like this. The ends are sewn together and the ends are tacked down. It's messy and ugly, but it doesn't matter because no one can see. But it's secure. And now I'm going to sew down this waistband right here, this opening, just like I've sewed the rest of it with the stretch stitch function. So I remember to change. And one last time, make sure that the elastic isn't twisted. I ran out of bobbin threads, so I have to rewind my bobbin. I'm going to do that. It might take me a little while. But we're almost done. Then it's just the hem. It's almost 12:30, but I will get to that in a second. Sorry, guys, my camera fell down. I'm still here. I finished my waistband. Couple threads here.
Amy,
Yeah,
I have a question.
yes.
When I was being lazy, and when I first did my waistband, I forgot that I didn't change the bobbin, and it's the white is showing through, but I changed my top stitch. So I want to redo it. But
Do
I
you
was
have-
wondering if when I close, see, sorry, I don't know if you
Did
see it.
you have two different colors, one for the bobbin and one for the top?
Yes, I didn't change the top. The top matches my fabric and the
Oh.
bottom. So I changed my bobbin now. So what I'm thinking that I can do as a shortcut is when I close this up, I just stitch all around and then take out my original stitches, my white. You think that'll work?
I did the same thing as you. I actually had a different bobbin color and I didn't want to change it.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I ended up having brown instead of gray. It's not that
Yeah.
bad though. And I forgot to warn you guys that when you're stitching like that, your bobbin thread's going to show, but it's easier to stitch like that because you can see the edge.
Right.
So you've already stitched all the way around.
I stitched all the way around and now it's time to just close up
Hole.
the hole. So I was thinking maybe I can, when I close up the hole, I go all the way around again and just unstitch the original.
Later, you could take it out.
Yeah, I can take it out later.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
But
Okay.
the trick though is if you go over that white thread that
Oh, uh-huh.
you want to accident like trace over it with your sewing with your stick,
Yeah.
you won't
Uh-huh.
it'll be really hard to get it out.
Oh, you're right.
So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to sew, a good amount above it or below it. So it just depends how much extra room you have
Right, I
here
have.
or above it.
Mm,
But
right,
it
right,
looks like there's quite a bit of room above it. The elastic
Yeah.
is ending here. You have all that space. So
yeah. Okay. I'll just go slow.
yeah, if you get hung up and you end up tracing over that stitch, it's just going to be a lot harder to.
So, and
You're gonna rip out both stitches.
exactly. Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions right now? So I'm gonna go on to the hen. Okay, I know where Maria is. Where's Pauline? How far are you?
I finished the crotch. I ran out of bobbin also, so I was stitching and I didn't know I didn't have bobbin. But anyway, I'm gonna go try it on.
Okay, great. You know what? I do that all the time, and I wish they would come up with a machine that was like ding, ding, ding when your bobbin's low. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway,
So I'm
okay.
gonna try it and see if it fits.
Okay, good. Definitely try it on. Lindsay, how are you doing?
I messed up and one of my legs I sewed the wrong way. So I'm just
What?
yeah, because when I put the leg inside the leg, the front wasn't matching with the front. The front was with the back, and I realized I think I sewed one of the legs backwards. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I don't know.
so the wrong sides weren't together.
I think yeah, because the fabric I have is really hard to tell.
Oh yeah, so
So-
that's what happened.
Yeah, so I'm
Or you
I'm
could just have
super-
one leg being wrong side and one leg right side.
I know. I guess I could have, but the hem would have been on the wrong side.
It would have been okay if you can't tell that much the difference.
I think that's what I did. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm
Okay.
super behind.
Okay. All right.
I'll have to go back afterwards and watch the video and catch up.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, it's me.
Melissa, how are you doing? Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to do the hem now. And Maria, you could follow along with me and fix your waistband later. Pauline, you could follow along as well. And because you already have the crotch done, you could actually do the hem first and then do your waist later, unless you're adjusting the fit or something. Melissa, I'm not sure. Melissa left. Okay. So I'm gonna try something with the hem. So instead of doing what we did with the waistband and pinking the edge and just folding it over, I was gonna do that with you guys. I'm gonna do that, the folded edge instead. Let me So if you want to do this in the future, you'll know how. And I'm sorry, my camera, the lighting isn't adjusting very well. But so what we're going to do is we're going to fold the raw edge over just a tiny amount. It's a 1/4 inch. So this is a 1/4 inch. And then we're going to fold it up a 1/2 inch or a little less than a 1/2 inch, whatever you're comfortable with. When I allowed on the pattern, I allowed a 1/2 inch hem. So technically, if we fold this a 1/4 and then this a 1/2, that's more. So we're shortening it. If you have an issue with that and you don't want them to be shorter, then you could just do the pinked edge and fold it up a 1/2. Or are all of you okay with doing this treatment?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll see. I think it'll look nice. And you'll get practice doing it. So we're gonna have a knit segment. I guess we're doing kind of a knit theme this season, because next month we're gonna do a knit t-shirt. So a lot of this will apply to what we do then. So that'll be nice. So I folded it a 1/4 and then I'm gonna fold it again about a 1/2 inch. And I'm starting on the seam so that I can match. I want to match my seams here, the seam line here and the seam line on the inside. I have my pants turned inside out. They're inside out so that I can do this more easily. And then I'm going to pin it. And then I'm going to work my way around doing that. So it's a little folded 1/4 inch and then about a 1/2 inch folded up. And this is a very common hem. You could do this on a sleeve, a knit sleeve as well. You could do this on your pocket edge. That's what I was showing Maria. The goal is just you want this fold here to be the same all the way around. You want it to be the same distance width all the way around. So if you're eyeballing it, you might want to measure it. Mine's pretty consistently a 1/2 inch, so I'm doing okay. And I'm using a lot of pins. So that's my finished one of my legs pinned. You guys that are doing those yoga pants have probably a bigger, wider leg. It'll take you a little longer to pin. So I'm gonna just go ahead and pin my other side. Give you a little more time. And then the next step after it's pinned is to sew it down. And again, you wanna make sure your bobbin and your top stitch are the same color, or whatever, thread color you want to match your leggings. You want it to be on the bobbin, because we're going to do the same thing. We're going to stitch wrong side up, just like we did on the waistband. So when we're stitching wrong side up, you got to make sure your bobbin is the same color, unless you want it to be contrast. So I'm going to be super careful. I'm going to turn my pants right side out because I just want to see how it looks before I sew it. So I'm happy how it looks, I think. Look at the other side. Okay, so I'm good to go. So I want to sew from this direction anyway, so I'm glad I turned it right side out because I want to sew inside the circle. So now I'm going to go over to my sewing machine, and I'll just do one because we're already over our time. I'll do one side to finish to show you, and then we'll say goodbye. I like to start near my seam. We have this inseam right here. So I usually start somewhere behind it or in front of it. And I have my pants turned right side out so I can sew inside the circle. And I'm going to put my needle in right here. And I'm going to stitch right along the fold. Just all along this fold, as close as I can get, and try to keep it nice and straight. So I hope you guys can hear me. I'm having to go really slow to stay on the fold because it's easy for the sewing machine to want to fall off it. So my fabric's pretty slippery and tricky, and it wasn't as even as I wanted it to be, and the tension was a little off. So it there's a little more room for error with this, so it actually looks okay, even though I didn't sew it too straight because I used matching thread, but it's a little warpy. It's hard to see there. The little puckery, so I'm just gonna take the iron and see if I can smooth that out. That's kind of what happens sometimes when you're sewing knits on your home sewing machine. Unless you're using a serger, a serger or a special, they have other machines that do like a chain stitch, hem stitch. Sometimes it's hard to get that professional from the store look. So I think on your yoga pant leg, it's gonna look better because it's wider and capri, but mine, it's kind of a little bubbly and funky on this tight legging, but it's okay. I think it looks all right. But that's another way that you can hem it. You don't have to do it this way. You could do it the same way we did the waistband if you want. But I want to show you different styles and techniques of doing things. So it's time to go, you guys, but mine are almost done. I'm gonna just do one more hem. This one's done. It looks like that. And now I just need to do this one. I'm gonna stop the recording.